welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So we're doing our regular monthly roundup of the most popular blockchain games in terms of on-chain activity. As ever, data is taken from DappRadar, so dappradar.com, and I've just basically gone and selected all chains and categories games. So it's basically this is selected the number of users. So this is ordered by the number of users over the last 24 hours. It's actually not users, it's actually wallets. So you have to be a little bit careful. Obviously, some of these games will have a bunch of bots, wallets operating, but that's blockchain really. This one here is an ad, so we're ignoring that. Obviously, if you want to, you can fiddle around with these and look at 7 days or 30 days. You get slightly different variations, obviously depending on what's going on in the game. In terms of how I create the graphs, if I go into click one of these, say Alien World, and it shows me this little graph here. I'll play around with that, and then I can actually download all the data via a CSV file, and then I just basically put all those CSV files together and create my graph. So that's how the magic works. Let's have a look and see what's going on. So I've split the graphs into two, sort of a sort of tier 1, tier 2 sort of situation. So this goes back to the 1st of January 2021. So we've got over a year, or what are we now, 15 months of activity, and we can see here how things have changed. So not very much up to this time last year, and then suddenly this big explosion. We have Alien Worlds here running on mainly on the Wax blockchain, a bit on Binance Smart Chain, actually the Binance BNB chain now. Should update that. So there we go. And Alien Worlds is now doing about 200,000 daily active unique wallets. So it's gone actually into March, had some drop-offs into going less than 200,000, which is the first time it's gone less than 200,000 daily active unique wallets. That sort of happens with games that, as games go on, as games kind of come on longer and longer, then obviously people tend to sort of churn out of the game. Particularly with something like Alien Worlds, where there hasn't been a lot of new features. I guess people are still waiting, or at least I'm waiting for the PvP element, which was promised a year ago, coming soon, I guess, still. So that obviously gives the potential for new people to come in, or at least stops the decline. But that game now has sort of declined, here back in November, was about sort of, under 300,000, and is now sort of headed down under 200,000. So we do tend to see that with all products that aren't updated, I suppose. So the big sort of headline rising giant, I suppose, of blockchain gaming. Remember, this is on-chain, so this is not off-chain gaming, but Splinterlands, as we can see, when it launched its SPS token back in July, August, massive increase. So basically, it's still giving away free tokens now. So there's a year's worth of free tokens to be given away, depending on how much value you have in the system. That drove it up to almost 500,000 daily active unique wallets, dropped back down to about 300,000, but now more recently on a rise again. So heading up to heading into 400,000 daily active unique wallets. So almost double now what Alien Worlds is. We get these big peaks with Splinterlands because we have every 2 weeks we have a tournament where you can win extra stuff, and generally towards the end of the tournaments, players or bots or combination of the two play a lot more to get more rewards. So that's where we tend to see these characteristic peaks and troughs. But we can see the general trend from the general trend in 2022, which is from this line here, is definitely up for Splinterlands. So gone from 300,000 towards 400,000 in a quarter. What else we got? So we've got Farmers World running on the Wax blockchain, so much smaller, 100,000 daily active unique wallets. I always worry a little bit about some of these. I don't worry. So I look at some of these products, particularly on blockchains, a bit like Wax and Binance Smart Chain. They tend to be more, obviously, they compared to something like Ethereum, it has gas fees. They tend to have more issues with bots. And what's interesting with Farmers World, we can see it's sort of grown from October last year, about 50,000, so it's doubled into 2022. What's interesting is you can see the sort of characteristic, has this very characteristic volatility, so it goes sort of these big down spikes, which sort of, to me, probably seem characteristic of bots, because you can see it comes down and then goes straight back up again, and it's increasing, and then it comes down again, and it's almost as if the developer is sort of getting rid of bots, and then the bots sort of come back. I don't know if that's the case or not. It's a very simple game in terms of DeFi stuff. You own NFTs, and you stake them, and you own material, and then you can get better NFTs. So like a lot of these games, sometimes called GameFi, because it's bit more like sort of DeFi than GameFi. Anyway, so Farmers World has sort of peaked at just over 100 and what's that, 120, 130,000. Then what's interesting here is now we see a bit more of a sort of smoother characteristics. So we don't have these big volatile up and downs anymore. My gut feeling would be they've changed some of the features there and looked at sort of some of the bot stuff. Particularly, I mean, the Wax blockchain as well has made some changes around how much you have to, basically how many sort of free transactions you get. So that may have taken off some of the bot stuff. To me, that looks like what's happened. And it's sort of sticking around 100,000. So we'll see how that one goes. Also in this graph, even though it's much smaller, I put in Axie Infinity, always worth looking at. Obviously, Axie Infinity has about 1.5 million daily active unique users, but that's mainly on the centralized non-blockchain element. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Axie Infinity over the next month, because the next version of the game, Axie Infinity Origins, is going live. Is it live at the end of the week. So again, that won't necessarily directly show up on the on-chain activities, what we're looking at here on the Ronin blockchain. But it'd be interesting to see how that changes. So it's basically an entirely new version. Well, not entirely new, but a sort of like an updated version of the battle element in the game. Also includes free-to-play elements for the first time. So I imagine for the off-chain elements, you'll see probably quite a big peak over time. We'll see how that plays out to on-chain. On-chain's also been hit because of the Axie or the Ronin blockchains had this big hack. So some of the functionality of the Ronin blockchain has been halted for a while. So the Kataka deck has been halted. So there we go. That's what's going on there. So we'll have a quick look at some other games. So these are slightly smaller. We have Uplands here, which was doing some big peaks at the start of the year. That's come off quite steadily. So now down under 50,000 daily active unique wallets. That's a mobile Monopoly type game running on the EOS blockchain. So that sort of seems to have it tends to undulate, goes up and down a little bit. Depends obviously what the features are, but that's sort of come down quite a lot. Crazy Defense Heroes, this tower defense game, had a massive increase. This is not because people are playing the game. This is because they are giving away their tower token. So you play the game. It is a mobile game without blockchain elements, but then you play the game and they give away this tower token. So you can see here they've been giving away a lot of tower tokens, up to 150,000 wallets involved there. But that looks like that giveaway has finished and it's come back down to sort of where it was before. So you have to be a little bit careful about these. These are not people playing the game and they're not playing the game. This is the game giving away loads of stuff. So that's why you get these big peaks. DeFi Kingdoms on Harmony and now also on the Avalanche blockchain. So a little uptick here. So looking like we're heading towards 25,000 daily active unique wallets. So it's been pretty steady over time. Obviously, adding a new blockchain sort of makes people more excited. So good to see. And Pegaxie, this running on the Polygon blockchain, is a basically horse racing breeding sort of horse racing simulation with breeding and gambling, that sort of stuff. That was looking like it was in a growth phase, getting up to sort of 20,000, 30 or 25,000. And we can see it has been dropping away in recent over March, partly because they had some issues with their gameplay, pretty fundamental issues actually. They had to rejig a whole bunch of how their breeding, the sort of breeding stock stuff worked. Also had a big impact on their token. So this is very much a play to earn game. I say from a fairly inexperienced team. So I think they sort of the token price went up a lot, and that grew the game, and lots of guilds were piling in, and people were sort of starting to think, is this the next Axie Infinity? And then the token price sort of went down again, as we've seen with Axie Infinity as well. So these things are complicated, and the user base goes up and down. So there we go. That's what's going on. A big boost for Crazy Defense Heroes. Also be keeping an eye on that one, and particularly as their blockchain game based on the IP goes live. Don't know when that's going to be. I imagine later in 2022. So it's interesting. They're sort of seeding a audience with tokens, and then going in and play a proper blockchain game. But other games, we see sort of undulations. We see as new features are added in. Blockchain games are games, and people are sort of activity is driven by what's going on in the game and what's not going on in the game. So. But good to see Splinterlands continuing to rise. I'm a big fan of Splinterlands, so I think it's well worth checking out if you haven't done so already. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is Blockchain Gaming World. We spend our time looking at what's going on in the world of blockchain games, well named, I suppose. So please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.